Hello everyone. Actually, I'm very happy to join this meeting because we started with BIA and Roger since the beginning of the ExoClock project, our collaboration. So it's a great pleasure to be here online. Of course, I wish to be with you at some point in person whenever that. But for the moment, let's focus on the ExoClock project, the Ariel space mission, and what we are trying to do, what we are doing, and how potential observers can join, or interested people in general. So first of all, let me introduce myself. I'm coordinating the ExoClock project, and I'm working as the public engagement officer for the UCL CSET Center, the Center for Space Exochemistry Data. The main focus of the project is to monitor the Ariel targets, so the targets that will be observed by the Ariel space mission. And before I talk about the project and what we are doing, how it is organized and all these things, just a few slides about the space mission, which is led by the UK and also specifically by UCL. Giovanna Tinetti is the PI. So the Ariel space mission is a European Space Agency M4 mission. It is preparing for launch in 2029. The build and the development of the mission has already started. It's going to be a telescope with a 1 meter aperture, and it will carry a spectrograph to cover different wavelengths, and you see quite a wide range between 0.5 to 7.8 micrometers. And it's really a dedicated mission to exoplanet atmospheres and the nature of exoplanets. So the main questions that the mission will address are what exoplanets are made of, how they form and evolve, and what's the weather there. The main expectation of this mission is to eventually build up the planetary age planets, similarly to what we have already with stars, the HR diagram for stars. In order to achieve something like this, you can understand that we need a really large sample of planets, and we are talking about 1,000 planets. And specifically, the target is 1,000 exoplanet atmospheres, because this is our only way at the moment. The mission will use mainly the transit spectroscopy method, and in different wavelengths, as you see here, is the usual method that we're using for discovering of planets, but this time we want the characterization of them, so we're using different wavelengths and trying to observe as many molecules as possible. And I have just an example here, the molecule of water, where 5 meters water is visible, and this effect is shown in the planet. While yes,
I was just going to say, I think we might be getting, unless it's me, there's occasional problems with the sound.
Really?
I think we're just about able to follow, but occasionally it kind of goes a little bit sort of wobbly. One thing we might try, I don't know if it'll make a difference, but we could always stop your video, and that might just free up the a bit more for the actual speech to come through.
Okay, let me try. Yes, that's fine. Do you want me to repeat some things, or you think?
I think most of it was okay. Maybe start where you were about sort of just before I interrupted you, and we'll...
Sound disturbance. Okay. Let me try now.
Thank you.
Or maybe I can take out the... It's better. Okay. So yes, Ariel will use the method of transit spectroscopy, and here you see an example of the molecule of water. So how this is absorbed at different wavelengths in 1.5 micrometers. The planet looks bigger, so this has an effect on the atmosphere. The planet will look much larger than the reality, while in 0.7 micrometers, the planet looks much smaller, and this is because of just water. So you can really expect and
extrapolate the same effect for different wavelengths, and this is what exactly Ariel will do, the main method, because it will use also the method of eclipse spectroscopy and phase also curve, but this is the main method. Now, Ariel will use a very specific and, of course, a very precise plan for these observations. We are talking about transit observations, so these are very specific phenomena happening at specific, and every planet will be observed after the other. And for this reason, it's very important to have a very good timing, so knowing the ephemerides of these planets precisely. And very importantly, because we don't want to lose information about these planets and end up in situations like this, where we have half of the transit, as you can see, and half of the transit means that we have half of the information, or even less, because we cannot really get an entire idea and image of this planet. So this is exactly what we are trying to do in ExoClock. So far, it's 3 years. We are following up these planets, the targets that Ariel will observe, all the already known targets or candidates, targets that are already known, but also being discovered now by TESS, for example. And the idea is to follow up with ground-based telescopes or some space telescopes for difficult targets to really know precisely the ephemerides of the targets, so Ariel can efficiently observe these planets. So here you see actually example of small telescopes. These are real telescopes. These are from our observatory from the university that we started in Thessaloniki, but it's only an 11-inch telescope. We have even smaller telescopes. So we can really do the job with small telescopes and follow up these targets, even some difficult ones. So here I introduced the project. The project is called ExoClock, and it's an organized platform to maintain the timings for these planets until the launch date, which is in 2029. We started in 2019, so quite early, but this is quite important because we want to follow up really a lot of targets, and it's more efficient if we start early. At the same time, the project is an effort to make the best use of resources that are out there. We know there are many actually ground networks, ground-based telescopes, but also different teams working on other topics. So if we can combine together all these telescopes and the capabilities that we have, we can, of course, reach the end easier and much more powerfully. So it is an effort to bring together all these people as well, people from different backgrounds, because we're talking about professional astronomers, but also amateur astronomers. The project is inclusive, so we describe it with the 3 I's. It is inclusive, interactive, and integrated. It is inclusive because we want to enable participation from different backgrounds and levels, so everyone can contribute with different skills and different knowledge. For this reason, we have created some educational material, and we share some observational guidelines. We have created HOPS, which you can see here. You will hear more about HOPS later on. HOPS is a dedicated software for photometry analysis. Has been created by Angelos Tsiaras. It's really an effort of many years of collaboration also with amateur astronomers to actually make it as user-friendly as possible, but at the same time to maintain the high quality of the results. So this is what we really want also for the mission, high quality and homogeneous results. So the software can be found at exoworldspice.com, which is another website that we have apart from ExoClock. And this is actually a website that is available in 6 different languages, not only in English, but in other languages to enable participation. So HOPS can be downloaded from there. There are also manuals that can support your experience. And overall, it's quite easy to install and use, of course, with the different guidelines that you will follow. Apart from the photometric software, you will find also observational guidelines to understand and, like to guide your own observation to be successful with that. And some other tools that are more for understanding the science behind a transit observation. At the same time, it's very important for us to spread the knowledge and be quite interactive. So that's why we organize training sessions. We have all this material. The next training session will have a HOPS software, which will be held during this month. If you're interested, you can, of course, register at ExoClock. Either if you have experience or not, you will receive all the updates about the project and also about this upcoming workshop. And of course, all our observers become co-authors in the publication. So even with one successful transit observation, which means that it goes under review and then it is published in our website, this will be also published in one of the future papers. And that means that you become equally a co-author in the publication. This is all part of the inclusiveness. Now, regarding the integrated aspect of the project, ExoClock includes and combines different sources of data because, as I mentioned earlier, we are trying to make the best use of resources. So that means space data for targets that are very difficult and not accessible from ground telescopes. We are talking about shallow transits or very long duration transits. And for this reason, we have dedicated time to KEOPS that Roger mentioned as well. And this is very, very good for us because that means we can definitely follow up these targets, which are, I can admit that there are very few targets that cannot be followed up from the ground, which of course is amazing because it means that the small telescopes from the ground can do the job. But still there is a small number of these targets. So we have the space data, we have literature data, and that means data from all publications that are already existing, either from the past or currently or future papers that are for different objectives, but we are using all this data, integrate them to see what data are missing. So this is very important. And we have a separate team working on that. So collecting all this data, reviewing them, and then we integrate them. And finally, of course, the ground network, which, as you see, includes quite many synergies. We have the ExoClock network, all the ExoClock participants. We have a lot of BAA members already. And then, of course, we have synergy with, as you see, Telescope Live, which is coordinated by Marco Rocchetto. We got some time with the Telescope Live. I will talk a little bit later about that for your interest. We have a synergy with Exoplanet Transit Database and Philip Walter. So again, filtering all this data to see which ones we can use, which are good enough, high quality, and for the targets that we really want. And finally, with Exoplanet Watch, which is at the US side with Rob Zellem, and it's a project dedicated to US missions. Now, finally, about the interactiveness. So, right, interactive community for us, it's very important in general to have a community. It's not about collecting data. Of course, we're not just a citizen science project or a PROM collaboration. It's more than that. For us, it's a community that each one can contribute, but also we can exchange knowledge and improve or evolve in general. So for that reason, we have an interactive website, which you can, of course, even access now. If you're interested, it's www.exoclock.space. You will have your own account as you sign up for the project. A personalized schedule based on where you are, your telescope and everything, your horizon. You will see quite many features that are really based on your own place and your own telescope. Then we as soon as you have your observation and you submit it, your observation will receive some feedback. So that means that the observation doesn't just go there in a pool of data and that's all. You will receive feedback to improve your skills as well, because this is very important. It's an educational process. and of course to improve the quality of the data. So it's not only about improving your skills, but it's improving also the data. So every observation undergoes this process, the review process, and you will get some feedback, or your observation will be published directly if you don't have anything to improve. Then we send some monthly newsletters. There is an upcoming one, which will be sent this coming week, with news about the project, but also anything that you may be interested, highlighted observations, efforts to maintain as much as possible the engagement. We have meetings, monthly meetings, but also beginners meetings to support anyone that is really unexperienced, and the Slack channels, which it's like a forum. Okay, for the moment it's a channel, it's different channels, but you will find support for your work, or you can ask any questions. And of course, here you see a finalized light curve as it is published in the website. You see different information. So it's like a small publication. Even each observation, each light curve that undergoes a review will appear like that. So you can click any observation on the website. We have thousands at the moment, and it is appearing like a final publication, which is very nice because you can see the summary of this observation particularly. Now, a little bit about the organization of the project and the different things that we are doing. I mentioned that we are integrating data, but for this reason, it's very important to have teams working on that. And just for your information, these are all volunteers that are supporting this effort. We have the literature team, the ETT team, and the space data team. And then we have some subgroups that are practicing techniques and equipment, the synchronous observations group, the CMOS observations working group, and finally we have some campaigns. We have the multicolor observations group, but the reason I'm not really mentioning here is because it's really at its infancy. There are not many things having been done in that. So more about these groups here. Now we have coordinators on the review team. I'm just showing you here what you will find also on the website. We are three main coordinators, me, myself, Angelos, and Billy Edwards. And then we have the review team, and mainly Georgie and Adrian are reviewing all the data for the first stage, so providing feedback, and then all together we're reviewing second time before the publication, just to make sure that everything is consistent and homogeneous. And we have national contacts, as you can see, for different countries. These are the contacts we have for specific countries. We have more countries, but these are the national contacts. And Rodney is for the UK, you may know already, who is supporting us a lot. Now, I'm just going to pass quickly these things here. The literature team is as you see, a team of university students, so that's why we're very inclusive, and they are supporting us with literature data, collecting and reviewing all this data, and they are working on a separate platform, so this is quite important, so we can have a consistent result on the end. The space data team, again, students or amateurs with interest on data analysis, and they're using an already prepared script. And this year is a little bit different because they will support also with programming. So this is also for you if you have programming skills and you want to, contribute in a different way, the call is still open. The ETD team is with experienced amateurs that have been working with ETD or have submitted data to ETD. They're helping us to review all this data that can be useful for ExoClock. Again, this year, we have already ETD related people, but if you're someone that has done that in the past, you're very welcome to join. And finally, the groups about synchronous observations and CMOS. This is an effort that is running simultaneously with the main project, with the main objective of the project. The idea is to test the efficiency of combining observations. This is an example here. So, for example, we're combining many different observations with small telescopes to increase the effect and finally produce a light curve as if it was with, a larger telescope. So the idea is to detect really difficult targets, transits, This was one of the very successful campaigns we did. As you see, it's a combination of 13 observations. It's quite impressive. But of course, this is under research now, investigation, because we need to find the best way on how to organize this type of campaign. So this is something parallel with the project. The CMOS observations, the idea is to find out what is the best way to observe with CMOS settings transit observations, because these detectors are getting a lot of, as you know, they are really increasing, and CCDs are not going to be used anymore. So it's really the future. We will have a workshop for CMOS in December, so you can get follow-up for that as well. And the team is coordinated mainly by Roland Kasalin, David Rees, and Leon Bierstoff, but Roland is really the main coordinator. And finally, campaigns, okay? We try to do once in a while campaigns for really important or difficult targets. TRES-1b and HD 866b were some examples, successful examples. We have an upcoming campaign. If you are an ExoClock member, you will have received an email about that. It's actually happening tonight. And it's quite an interesting target because it's quite difficult. So it's a 20 hours duration target. The campaign will be like it's a collaboration with a researcher for Germany. But in any case, this is from France. So in any case, you can get a follow-up if you're in ExoClock. Okay, and now we are just a little bit about the PROAM aspect of this project, because yes, it's an open, really open, integrated and inclusive project, but for us, the PROAM aspect, professional amateur collaboration aspect, is really important, because it's not about, you know, as I said, collecting data, it's about building all together. It's a really collaborative effort. So from the experience so far, we realize how important it is to, first of all, for this effort to include participants in all stages of the project. And I'm sure that, you know, people that are already here, like I can see Martin. So yes, just for the PROAM aspect, I'm mentioning this because I think it's important to highlight these different aspects of our collaboration, because as I said, it's not just an effort, a one-way communication. It's really an effort to build the and everything in the project together. Yes. So, I was saying that our participants, especially Martin, I'm sure we are really trying to this project, you know, not collect the data or give directions. Yes, sorry, I connected to another network just to make sure that we will not have this problem again.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Yes. So pretty much just to wrap up with that, I hope you can hear me. You can see some of them, I think the most efficient strategies that we're trying to use and implement in the project to increase the effect of a successful PROAM collaboration. So it's really that we're trying all the time to maintain this engagement with the community, and not just being ourselves pretty much. So whatever you have, you will hear about the project and you know, the results of the project is really an effort of this collaborative aspect mainly. And I think this is very important. I'm just highlighting for other potential projects that it's important to maintain the engagement and of course all the time interact as a community, because we also learn from the community. And we have a lot of professional astronomers as well. It's not only amateurs. So everyone can give some feedback or ideas, and we can improve even more. So the project, a little bit about the status. We, as you see here, we have really like a wide range of countries, mainly in Europe. I believe this is the effect of a European space mission. That's why we have so many people from Europe. But of course, we have some joining from other countries because the project is open, and that's very nice. We are always willing to have more people. At the moment, we have registered more than 650 participants. The majority are amateurs, so it's amazing because amateurs are doing the majority of the job. The good thing is that we are not really a project, a restricted project, or really trying to have permanent members that cannot leave or are tied up with the project. We have people that have had other responsibilities, so they came only for a while, or they are coming back. It's really up to the person that is joining the project. So this is one flexibility. It's really flexible. You can see some of the other numbers, 600 telescopes, between 6 to 40 inches. We have even 5 inches telescopes that can do really successful observations, and up to 375 targets have been followed up at the moment. Okay, so you see here a number saying 570. These are the current targets on the mission reference sample, but at the end we talk about more targets, but this list is being updated all the time, so more targets are being added on the website. 45 countries at the moment. This number was really like small at the beginning, but more countries are joining. And finally, as you see, around 5,000 observations we have at the moment. But again, we receive more observations on a daily basis, and this is increasing. So this is just representative of the current status. Now, of course, we have had some products from these 3 years. We have had 3 ExoClock publications. This is the first one, just a summary. You can find it at the link that I'm providing here. It's published at the Experimental Astronomy Journal. It is really a nice document because you can find information about different aspects of the project. And I think it's the longest publication in terms of content, because we are talking about literally anything about the project, the organization, the strategies, everything. And you can see here that it included the results for 119 planets, and it was an effort with 46 co-authors. Now, the second publication, of course, it is a little bit higher. We had more than 100 co-authors, and we updated the ephemeridis for 180 planets. And of course, this is also very important for us because it showed that it's again a collaborative effort with even more people joining the project. This publication is published at the APJS. You can find it here if you're interested. And the latest publication, which is the largest so far that we have had, apparently, yes, most of my slide is the names of the co-authors, 217 people. It's really like a large effort, and we updated the ephemeridis for 450 planets. The most important thing for this publication is that we included for the first time in our project space data. So it was really an integrated result of the 3 things that I mentioned earlier: ground-based data, literature data, and space. So I'm not going to talk about this because it's too much. It's a separate talk, but you can find the information about this publication on the website, where we have a separate talk. We have a lot of recorded talks if you're interested. And this is accepted at APJS. Okay, you can find it at the moment on the archive. And I think within this month, it will be also at the formal journal. So a bit about the 3 years in operation. Of course, it's an effort that is continuing, and we hope to continue until 2029. The project is really expanding, and it's a lot of effort and a lot of work. We didn't expect that from the beginning, and that's why we are always looking for support from the other people that are interested and willing to help maintain this effort. We have had 3 publications so far, 1 press release for the latest publication, because it was really a huge effort with many co-authors, and most of them were amateur astronomers, so it's really important for the community and highlighting the efforts of this collaboration. We have had 30 newsletters, 25 meetings, 12 newcomers workshops, these are increasing. 150 amateurs have become co-authors.
Anastasia, you're back again. I think we lost your sound for a moment there.
No.
I'm sorry, yes.
No,
observed the transit before co-authors, which means a lot to us, because it means that all the effort and the educational material is quite important for these people to manage to be co-authors. So if they manage to do it, you can manage to do it. If you're an experienced user, you will get all the necessary support, and I'm sure you will manage if you're willing to. And we talk about the community. So recently we had, you can see on the right image, our annual meeting. And of course, it was quite a hard moment because there were many strikes and quite many problems in terms of transportation, but we're happy to have this group of people. You can see, I think, some familiar faces, but in any case, we had people from other countries, mostly from the UK. It was the first in-person annual meeting. We have had before that an online annual meeting. We hope to have even more, because it was very nice gathering of people, and we had very interesting talks. The talks are available on the website if you're interested to watch them, all the recordings. We had talks from Ariel scientists, by ExoClock members, and of course ExoClock coordinators and different partners. So you can watch all the recordings that are available on the website. I'm encouraging you, because you will get a really nice idea of different aspects of the project. And on the left, it's like we are all ExoClock members. We met, it was kind of by chance in the EPSC, but all these people are part of ExoClock, and some gave also ExoClock related talks in that conference. So very, very positive for the conference, because before that, we didn't have many talks about exoplanets and the contribution of amateur astronomers in the field of exoplanets. So for us, it's very important that this year you can see all these people joining the conference. And something beyond, okay, it's something new that we started this year. If you're an amateur astronomer and you have a telescope, of course, that's all fine. You can directly join the project. It's really like something that we encourage you if you're interested. But if you don't have a telescope, you can have the chance with our remote telescope collaborations. We don't have many hours, but we have a collaboration with Las Cumbres Observatory and Telescope Live. We've got some observing hours from each observatory. And if you're interested and you don't have a telescope, I'm highlighting this, you can submit your application here. I'm sure someone can copy paste this link on the chat area if you're interested. And of course, this is quite new, because it was not the main objective of the project, but we saw through these years that there were many interested people that didn't have equipment. So that's why we started this effort to increase participation and enable participation from these groups of people. Okay, I think I reached the end because I want to leave some time for questions if there are some questions. And of course, you're very welcome to join the project. Either if you have or you don't have a telescope. As I said, there are many opportunities for interested people. Thank you for your attention all this time. We talked for quite a long time.
Right. Andy, can I come on for a few moments now?
Yes, please do.
Right.
And
okay, sorry, go on, Andy.
all I was going to say is we might want to give a suggestions to people can type their questions in the chat, but we can also allow people to speak because we're on a meeting when we come to Q&A. But over to you, Roger.
Yeah, I'd certainly like to thank Anastasia. I mean, that was very fortuitous. We just, back in 2019, I think it was, before all this COVID rubbish, we just got the Exoplanet division off the ground. Some people wondered if there was enough interest to warrant it, but I think they've been proved wrong. But then Anastasia came along to asteroid and remote planet section meeting, where I think, if I'm correct, you actually announced the project then, Anastasia. It hadn't been broadcast worldwide then.
Yes.
So that was good. I'm not sure what the problem with the sound was, but the minute you mentioned Martin Crowe, it went haywire. So Martin, you've obviously got a problem there, but not to worry. Yeah, I've got a question that Siegfried, a comment that Siegfried put on the chat. When I was talking about ways of detection exoplanets, I had omitted astrometric detection. Yes, I mean, a large planet going around the star will cause that star to wobble a little bit, and the likes of Gaia can actually detect that movement. So there has been a detection by astrometric methods. And Siegfried, you put a question on chat. Would you like to ask that of Anastasia directly?
Yeah, it's about Cheops. You mentioned this shortly. If there is a possibility to apply for proposals.
You mean possibility by whom? In Cheops, the proposals were submitted quite a long time ago, and they are submitted by research groups. So in our case, it was submitted by the whole ExoClock team with specific targets that we know that are not they're not accessible from the ground. So I'm not sure if the question is if you can submit. If you're representing a research team, you can, but usually this is how it works with any mission. You have to submit a proposal as a research team with specific targets, and then they will see if something if they want to proceed with that. We got already where we got a successful application. We know that we will have observing time. It is just up to us to organize when is the best time for these targets. I believe within 2023 we will start already.
And are your observations publicly available or proprietary?
I think we will make them available unless Cheops is also an open mission, so I don't think there will be problems with that. But you will get information about that as soon as we have the first data. Yes.
Okay, interesting to know.
Definitely.
Right, then, any more questions?
I see one question on the chat. By Adam. I'm not sure if Adam wants to ask this question, or I can directly.
Yeah. Thank you, Anastasia. Just as my chat question, really, you've got hundreds of observations coming into the project. With any kind of scientific project, you need to ensure quality, and you need to ensure errors are kept to the minimum. And I'm just wondering how you sift out good data from bad data. And then following on from that, how do you ensure a bottom level of equipment specification? Do you have to have a realistic minimum? Or do you take all the data and just analyze it to try to sift a normalized sort of baseline from that?
Some of that will be answered in my bit this afternoon, actually.
Yes. Thanks for the question. Actually, it's a very good question. And since the beginning, this was a very big challenge because we're talking about, as you said, really a lot of data from different resources. So pretty much the summary of this is that we are trying to use criteria for all the observations, the same criteria. We have some diagnostics. First of all, for the ground-based observations, we always have some diagnostics that have to be fulfilled. We have a minimum for each of them. Then if these are not satisfied, the observation will be returned until the diagnostic or the criteria is satisfied on the minimum. So when an observer submits an observation, first of all, they will get a review report. So they can themselves review the data if they're good enough, they're satisfying the criteria. This is done automatically on the website. If they fulfill the criteria, then they undergo the second stage, which is the review by the team. And this is why we have a team, because sometimes the codes are not really identifying a mistake. So the review team will go through each observation, each diagnostic, and see if indeed the results are consistent. So they are always comparing the final result of each observation with the results that we have had from previous observations, and of course the main planet, the main ephemeris. So it's really a multiple stage process to finalize the observation. And then even after that, of course, we have codes that are running all the data together to identify any outlier or mistake, something that is not consistent. And even after this large code process, we go again through the data. So it's really a multiple stage process. And I think the main way that we manage it is through the different diagnostics that we have that have to be fulfilled. And we set a minimum for each of them, not only for the observations by the observers, but also for the other sources of data, the literature data, the ETD data, the space data. That's why we have the dedicated teams, because the code will do the overall review, of course, for you, based on some criteria, but you may have outliers, which is makes sense. You always have outliers. And then for the, I hope this answers the question. It's really summary. Like we can go through each. I could show in the website also separately some things, but I'm not sure who else we talk. Maybe Martin will talk about some of the diagnostics in the review. And the minimum equipment specification. Well, this is always under experiment. At the beginning, we have set 6 inches because this is what was our experience from our own tests. But at the moment, it seems that also 5-inch or sometimes even 4-inch telescope can do some very, very, very bright targets with quite, deep transits. So I would say at the moment our limit is okay, 5. Let's say 5, not 4. But and very important, this is something we have done throughout the years. Based on the results of each observer, the scheduler, the personalized scheduler, calibrates the observations, the results, the transit that someone has done, and will give you the real targets that you can observe based on your telescope and your camera. So if you, for example, have submitted an observation that is with a 5-inch telescope, but it seems that you can do the job for a 6 or 7 or 8-inch telescope, that means that your scheduler will be recalibrated. So it will give you really like the representative targets that you can observe. This requires by yourself to have submit at least some few observations, because each one has different quality of data, different quality of sky, and all these things. So it's really a personal thing after all.
Just one point on there. Anastasia was talking about size of telescope. I have in the past, I think Martin Fowler's used it more successfully than me, used the Micro Observatory 6-inch telescopes out in Arizona. About 1 in 3 was successful, but at least it gives you a lot of opportunity to try all the different options in hops to tease out a good result from a bad one, and it's free.
Good point.
Right. Thanks again, Anastasia. Any more questions?